The staggering 23.9% drop in India's quarterly GDP growth rate is an important news which has kind of been sidelined by the mainstream media. It is important because since 1996, when India first started calculating its quarterly GDP growth figures, this is by far the worst fall. And it is also predicted that the annual GDP growth of this financial year might as well be the lowest since India's independence. But what is GDP and why is the country so obsessed with this figure? Is COVID-19 the only reason for such a huge economic backlash? And how do all these numbers affect a common man's life? Well, my name is Ishan Fauzdar from the Upfront, and today I'll try to answer all these questions and analyze the economic deadlock that India is locked in. Let's get going, shall we? First things first, what is this GDP that the country is going bonkers about? Well, in very simple terms, GDP is the sum or the addition of what you spend, what I spend, what the government spends, what the private companies spend, and the net export of the country. When converted into an economical formula, GDP turns out to be the sum of consumption, government spending, private investment, and the net export. Now, GDP follows the basic economic principle of demand supply. Let's understand how. When we as consumers buy something, we spend our money, and this spending goes on to add to the GDP of the country. When we buy something, we create a demand, and this demand creates a supply. This supply is fulfilled by the companies which make products, and when demand increases, supply also increases. When this supply goes up, these companies invest or spend to make their infrastructure and machinery good or better in order to cope up with the demand. Hence, this spending on infrastructure also goes on to add to the GDP of the country. Now, when we spend on something, a small amount of that money also goes to the government in form of indirect taxes. Now, when the government uses that tax money to give us facilities, public facilities, it also spends, and this also adds to the GDP of the country. Hence, now it can be understood why GDP growth is an indicator of economic growth of a country. A good GDP growth indicates that the demand supply cycle is sound and cycling in a good way, but a bad GDP growth indicates that there is an imbalance. And this entire economic crisis which we are facing right now hangs on this demand supply cycle. So keep that in mind for the rest of the video. A depreciation in the GDP growth rate is indicative of friction in the demand supply cycle. This friction can be attributed to many factors, but in our country, these factors can be categorized into two broad leagues: the accumulating factors and the immediate factors. The accumulating factors are the factors which inflicted damage upon the Indian economy before the COVID-19 lockdown. These are mostly bad policy decisions on the part of the government. The immediate factor is of course the stringent lockdown imposed indiscriminately in the country by the government. Let us look at the accumulating factors first. The so-called master stroke of this government did strike the economy down pretty badly. Don't misunderstand me, the ideals of demonetization were on point, but it failed to achieve any of them. According to a RBI report, 99.3% cash came back into the system, which means that the black money, the 30% black money which was not supposed to make its way back into the banks, made its way back into the banks some or the other way. But the most important and the worst impact which demonetization had on our economy was the void that it created in demand. When 86% of the economy of the cash in the market was declared illegal overnight, the consumers, which is you and me, were left with little or no money. This resulted in the consumers spending less and hence a depreciation in demand. When demand went down, the supply had to come down as well, and this resulted in the downsizing of many companies. And guess what happens when a company downsizes? It lays off its employees, it cuts down the salary, and directly or indirectly this impacts, complete the sentence, us. This was the beginning of the imbalance created in the demand supply cycle, and the numbers prove it. A paper titled Cash and the Economy by Geeta Gopinath, the chief economist of IMF, lays down that demonetization lowered the economic activity of India by at least 2%. More than 15 lakh jobs were lost only in the first 4 months of demonetization, and let's not forget the 150 lives which were lost due to this draconian step of the government. After demonetization, when the cash slowly started getting back into the system and the economy started reviving, GST happened. Well, GST followed the same pattern as demonetization. Good idea, bad implementation. Instead of creating one nation, one tax as Modi ji promised, a tax slab was created ranging from 0 to 28%, and the government had no idea what to tax, what not to tax, and how much to tax. This created instability and inconsistency in the market, which further imbalanced the demand supply cycle. Remember the GDP home recipe formula? Well, after demonetization, the public already had no money to spend, but after GST, even the private companies became apprehensive of investing in India because of the instability and inconsistency in the market. The numbers prove the same. The corporate investment fell by 60%, and 475 crore rupees were pulled out from the Indian market by foreign investors. This was the impact, the draconian impact of GST. Bank frauds and growing social unrest made the Indian markets even more unreliable for the foreign investors. According to a RBI report, there was a 74% increase in bank frauds in the financial year 2018-2019. In the first quarter of financial year 2018-2019, India touched 5% GDP growth, the lowest in the last 6 years, and this quarterly GDP growth kept coming down even before the lockdown. India also touched a marginal 18% nominal GDP growth, which is the lowest in the last 17 years. Manufacturing sector growth came down from 12.1% in the last quarter to 0.6% in 2019, and the rural wage growth came down from 14.6% to 1.1% in 2019. Coming to the immediate reason, the stringent lockdown imposed by the Indian government shattered the already wheelchaired Indian economy. In fact, according to a stringency index created by an Oxford research, India scored a perfect 100, making it the country with one of the most stringent lockdowns in the world. Talking about lockdowns, let's first set aside some misconceptions. According to Abhijit Banerjee, the Nobel laureate who got the Nobel Prize for Economics from India, India was one of the worst performing economies in the world, and it is to be noted that India was the worst performing economy in the world, and no, we did not do better than USA. Here is the deal. The method of calculating GDP growth is different in different countries. In India, we use year on year comparison. That is, we compare the GDP of this quarter with the GDP of the same quarter last year, and then calculate the overall GDP growth. But in USA, they use quarter on quarter comparison. That is, they compare the GDP of this quarter with the GDP of the previous quarter and not the quarter of the previous year. and then bring out or calculate the overall GDP growth. Hence, these two data could not be compared because of different methods of comparison. And when the readjusted figures were put out by Geeta Gopinath, the chief economist of IMF, it was found that America performed at minus 9.2 GDP growth and India was at minus 23.9, right, making India the worst performing economy in the world. And these numbers make it pretty clear that the worst performing condition of India was not only an act of God. Indian economy was already wheelchaired by the bad policy decisions, the accumulating factors, and by this lockdown, this stringent lockdown, this wheelchaired economy was simply pushed down the cliff. Finally, how do these GDP numbers, the GDP growth rate, affect the common man, the you and me? Well, a depreciation in GDP growth rate is indicative of depreciation in the economic growth of the country and an indication of imbalance in the demand supply cycle. Due to this stringent lockdown, there is minuscule or no demand, which is leading to minuscule or no supply, because of which big companies have started downsizing big time. And with downsizing comes salary cuts, huge layoffs, which percolate to employment in the end. Well, as a matter of fact, Tesla imposed a 10% salary cut on all its employees. Uber fired 3,700 of its frontline workers over a mere Zoom call, 3-minute Zoom call. Marriott slashed the salaries of its senior executives by 50% and laid off 10,000 of its workers. MSMEs are in an even worse shape because they are not only having to salary cut or lay off their workers, entire enterprises are having to be shut down because of no supply chain and no demand. The unemployment rate has recorded peaked to 23% in the month of April and May, 3 times to what it was in the month of January. And eventually it came down to 11% in June, but it only shows that of the organized sector. We know nothing about the unorganized sector, and hence this unemployment rate is highly misleading and is highly undercounted. The irony of our country lies in the fact that while we are going through an all-time economic low, Mr. Mukesh Ambani earned rupees 90 crore per hour even after the lockdown was imposed. Well, the difference in wealth is so clear that it does not only show but glares now. And the fact is that we have gone down the rabbit hole and it is going to be extremely difficult to come out. The Atmanirbhar package by the government was a welcome step, but the claim of it being of rupees 20,000 crore was proved utterly false. What we should do right now is listen to our foremost economists such as Raghuram Rajan and Manmohan Singh and do direct cash transfers to the accounts of migrant laborers. What this will do is this will give money directly in the hands of the consumers, which will boost demand, which in turn will boost supply, and the balance in the demand supply cycle can be regained. Well, the One Nation One Ration Card is also a scheme which the government should follow, and the most important thing which the government should understand right now is that the bottom has to be reconstructed first of all, and then we can go to the top. The bottom top approach is what we need, and the bottom is what needs reconstruction right now. If you like the work that we are doing, please do like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also press the bell icon so that you get regular updates on whenever we upload a video. Thank you so much.